Please welcome Hall of Honor inductee, four-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl X MVP, and Hall of Famer, Lynn Swann. Steelers Nation, wave those terrible towels.
Half a century after its birth, it may now be the single most iconic sports item ever created for the fan.
Myron Cope's terrible towel. Well, that is part of the Steeler lore, no doubt about it.
It's still one of one. I mean, people can have towels they wave at other sporting events, but the terrible towel is one of one.
Pretty cool. You look up there and there's, I guess, waving all these yellow towels and everything.
I mean, the towel in a lot of ways is like the Steeler flag.
The gold color just stands out so great in a stadium, and when our fans show up in mass, as they usually do, the towel sort of helps them just take over the stadium wherever they are.
We're in Arizona, by the way, so you might not be able to tell by all those terrible towels.
With one simple gesture, the towel unites a nation. Steelers Nation.
It is what they take with them into battle. It's their weapon, and they use it.
Woo! Look at all these terrible towels. Everybody got one. Look at you see it on. Everybody got one.
And when it gets going, and that whole stadium is waving, it is something magical.
You still?
Became part of the people and became part of the culture. And to be a Steeler fan, you had to have a terrible towel.
I'm Lynn Swann, and I'm going to tell you how the terrible towel came to be, what I did that helped our fans embrace it, and why the tradition has endured for 50 years. This is a Steelers story, the terrible towel. Up to 250,000 terrible towels are manufactured each year, mostly here at Little Earth Productions on the south side of Pittsburgh. A typical towel weighs less than 4 ounces, but its impact is enormous, permeating the lives of Steeler fans literally from birth.
Well, you look at the popularity of it, you'll see in the whole ward every baby's covered with a terrible towel.
It's always great to see how proud people are to take a picture of the towel. We get pictures, from all over the place, and it's just fun that people think to bring a towel with them when they go on a trip and take a picture with the towel in an iconic place.
All these 50 years later, from coast to coast, and wherever you go, people have terrible towels.
Of course, the towel itself was created and ultimately made famous through the efforts of one man, Pittsburgh's own Myron Cope.
The terrible towel is poised to strike, so are the Steelers.
An award-winning magazine writer, Myron joined the Steelers radio broadcast team in 1970 with no real on-air experience.
The Steelers are a team with a lot of character.
And remained the team's color commentator for the next 35 years.
It's a two-handed catch, but he had to leap higher than the goalposts in order to get his mitts on that football.
He said he knew nothing about it. He just talked when they told him to talk and shut up when they said to. He did color analysis and emphasis on the word color.
Noel said, improvising, I don't want jazz musicians, I want classical musicians. But if he was improvising there, Noel, take it. Play that saxophone, Bobby.
There was no one like him. He just, he was funny. He was just really funny.
Andre Waters, who has been known to be sort of an uncouth guy on a football field, was nothing but a fly on Eric Green's right shoulder.
Pittsburgh people gravitated towards the way he described people, plays, situations.
A drive that went so fast you hardly had time to blink.
He's a Yinzer, you know, he's a Pittsburgh guy, and he talked Pittsburghese.
Myron Cope was just synonymous with the Steelers. He related to his community in an incredible way.
Just a unique character who had a unique voice. Some people say he didn't have a voice for radio, but obviously it worked.
Football League playoffs going up against the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers.
The unmistakable voice became his trademark. A high-pitched squawk crossed with his signature rasp, like sandpaper on gravel.
That was a shovel pass, appeared to me. You know, he got the old coal, to throw the coal into the bin, their business to Hodge. And Hodge goes in, you know, nothing but a nice day around him.
He said, my voice is not what you think of as a broadcasting voice. It tends to cut through concrete.
It was kind of a perfect voice for an industrial city that was used to the noise of mills and factories and things like that.
How'd you like to be Tunchel Gunn? He's going to celebrate his 34th birthday tomorrow.
Oh my God, he spoke so loud. He could crank the volume up to 11 and the enthusiasm up to 12. It was a voice you could not possibly ignore.
He became the indisputable voice of Pittsburgh, delivering commentaries on local news, hosting a radio talk show, and creating his own language along the way.
He had his own phrases and sayings, of course, the yoy, and that came from the Yiddish expression oy vey.
Yoy and double yoy.
Ma, or yoy, or double yoy.
Around the house, he didn't sound like that. He was actually very quiet in his personal life. Very quiet, very sympathetic. He always was trying to help people out and give people money. Just truly cared about other people.
The new Super Bowl champs, the champs of the National Football League.
A year after winning our first Super Bowl, we came into the 1975 season as defending champs and earned home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The city was buzzing, and a couple of weeks prior to our first playoff game against the Colts, Myron was called into a meeting with his bosses at the radio station.
The general manager at WTAE Radio was Ted Atkins, who was a brilliant programmer. And so he went to Myron and he said, I want you to come up with something that the fans would be excited about and they could rally behind.
And he told Myron, he says, I want you to come up with some kind of gimmick so we can promote stuff, you know, on the air. And Cope says to him, he said, I'm not a gimmick guy.
So I said to them, I'm not a gimmick guy. I've never been a gimmick guy. And they said to me, your contract comes up for renewal in a few months. And I said, well, let me see if I can think of a gimmick.
The story goes that Myron said, maybe fans could bring something lightweight and portable to show off at the game. A sales manager named Larry Garrett was also in the meeting.
And it's Larry Garrett who says they could bring towels, something that everybody has. And Myron, inspiration hits him, says, we could call it the terrible towel. It was Larry Garrett who suggested the idea of a towel, but Myron was the one who took it and ran with it. He was so good at transmitting the enthusiasm to fans and making them want to be part of the action, the community.
When I went on the air, on TV and radio, they had 2 weeks, you know, for me to get this done, throwing towels around and saying to the fans, bring a yellow, gold, or black towel to the game, will you? If you don't have one, buy one. You don't want to buy one, die one. You know, just any face towel or something like that.
I didn't think people would actually listen to Myron's call to action about bringing these towels in.
But Steelers Nation did listen. In fact, they made history. It was December 27, 1975, and even Myron was stunned. by the response.
So, what do you know? The team comes and appears in a tunnel for the introductions. From nowhere come like 30,000 towels. Yellow, black, gold towels.
You know, I remember being a little surprised about how many towels there actually were. There was no kind of one color or, you know, one size towel. So there were all kinds of different towels, different sizes and different colors.
They were makeshift towels, do-it-yourself towels. But they were, let's make no mistake, they were from the start terrible towels.
Now trust me, under Chuck Noll, the Steelers were absolutely a highly disciplined, no-nonsense team with no mascot and no cheerleaders. To many guys inside the locker room, the terrible towel seemed like a pointless stunt.
That was the furthest thing from Chuck Noll's stature, is that he just doesn't do gimmick things like that. But it worked. It worked.
What I remember is that it came on so fast and so furious. It wasn't there, and then it was there. You know, there were no towels, and then there were towels everywhere. Even the guys like me who didn't really understand it start to embrace it.
Following week at the AFC Championship game again at Three Rivers, fans poured onto the field, and there were two guys who carried this huge sign through the end zone saying, "The Terrible Towel." And then the fans took it down to Miami for the Super Bowl.
Once in Miami, Myron continued to promote the idea during his local sports reports.
This is the first Super Bowl at which will be present the Terrible Towel. And its magic may even give Pete Rozelle his spectacular game.
Bradshaw to fire to the near side, and it may be intercepted. Leaping for it was Lynn Swann, and they rule a good catch. Bradshaw is deep, and they're firing downfield. Swann going after covered, and it's juggled. Swann catches another circus catch.
It's two sensational catches in this ball game by a leaping Lynn Swann.
The Steelers have won the Super Bowl for the second consecutive year.
For most of the next 3 years, the Terrible Towel was still kind of a do-it-yourself project. That is, until the fall of 1978, when a clever idea came from an unlikely source, a marketing manager at Gimbel's department store.
He approached Myron and said, "How would you like to have a towel that we could sell in the stores? We'll create a logo. You can make a royalty off of it, and we can make some money, and we'll have an official Terrible Towel."
Myron loved the idea. So in December of '78, just before our first home playoff game in 3 years, Gimbel's began selling the initial batch of 6,000 original Terrible Towels for just $5 each.
The first batch of towels sold out in 4 hours. And then they printed up another batch, and that one sold out in 2 hours. I think that's the point it really started to sink into Steelers culture.
The next week, we were hosting the AFC Championship game against the Oilers. When we got to the stadium, we saw that the team had put an official Terrible Towel in every locker. I grabbed mine and took it with me as we were waiting to be introduced. I could feel the crowd's excitement. I had this towel, and I was kind of flicking it on my leg. I saw fans standing up, and so I started waving the Terrible Towel, twirling it over my head, and all of a sudden, everyone in the stadium was doing it. And I just continued waving my towel as I was introduced.
He jumped about 10 feet in the air waving this towel, and the whole stadium went crazy, of course.
I can remember, I can see it being pictured now as he's running out the field waving that towel. And the fan base went nuts.
This fan, wearing only 2 Terrible Towels, streaked onto the field before the game.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. They were trying to tackle him. And I thought that was great. Maybe that was the official buy-in by the team and the fan base that the Terrible Towel was now all of ours.
Myron Cope came up to me years later and thanked me, saying that was the beginning. That moment when I ran onto the field, waving the towel, was a seminal moment in the Terrible Towels' history.
We got the best offense, the best defense, the best QB, the best running back, the best everything, best coaching staff, best front office, and we got the Terrible Towel.
Terrible Towel. What more do we need?
2 weeks later, prior to Super Bowl 13, I waved it again during player introductions, and Myron explained the Terrible Towel's powers to a national TV audience.
Not a good luck charm, mind you. It is a force. It gives the Steelers tremendous strength. It is not a curse on the opponent, but if need be, it will pose mysterious difficulties for the opponent.
And he's going to Swann, and Swann makes a circus catch in the end zone. Unbelievable catch for the touchdown. Super Bowl 13, captured by the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first team in the history of the NFL to win it 3 times.
Of course, we won the championship that day, and again the next year. After our 4th Super Bowl win in 6 years, we were the first NFL champions to be invited to the White House, and we had to bring the Terrible Towel. The towel was getting so popular, knockoffs began to flood the market. So, Myron filed for trademark protection, and official Terrible Towels began to bear his name.
My dad rode the coattails of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were at the helm. The Steelers and the towel. If the Steelers had been a lousy team, the towel never would have become something. Those two things went hand in hand.
But when our championship run ended, towel sales plummeted.
And it's funny, 1980, the Steelers slipped to 9-7, don't make the playoffs. And the towel figuratively plunged off a cliff. Instead of getting, $20,000 royalty checks, Myron got a letter from Gimbels saying, "We'll send you a check when your royalties reach $10. It was just, there were no sales at all.
Gimbels let their contract lapse after the 81 season, and it's hard to believe looking back, but the towel was not for sale for more than a decade. In the 80s, the towel was officially dead, but Myron was determined to resurrect it.
What is this miracle we behold? What is the textile that rises from the copriscope? Egads, 'tis the Terrible Towel.
Myron was the one guy keeping the towel alive. A fan had called up his radio show and said, I'm tired of you trying to revive the towel.
Cope, I want to fight with you about that Terrible Towel.
Yeah?
Bring that towel out one more time and we'll go down that station and gag you with it.
You have no need to make the trip because, as I have said, it has been shown clearly to me, and I am a realist, that the towel was an instrument of the 1970s. It could return in the 1990s, but it ain't right for the 1980s, so we ain't even got to fight there.
And Myron, at that point, decided to lay off the towel for at least a few years because he saw that its powers seemed to have evaporated.
Then, in 1994, the Blitzburg defense was making a name for itself, terrorizing opposing quarterbacks.
He's trapped. He's going to be hit. Safety.
I just remember the excitement, the energy in the air, and I just remember all the towels.
Steelers Nation had a new team identity to celebrate. And when we clinched the division title against the Browns in December of 1994, the Terrible Towel was reborn. Myron's persistence had paid off. Over the next 2 decades, the towel not only survived, but it seemed to gain power.
There's not a good record of opposing players disrespecting the Terrible Towel.
Well, don't disrespect the Terrible Towel.
It started during the 1994 playoffs, when the Browns' Ernest Biner stepped on the Terrible Towel. We won big that day, and a decade later, the Bengals also tempted fate when wide receiver T.J. Houshmandzadeh did this.
T.J. Houshmandzadeh doing his little thing on the shoe with the Terrible Towel. And it's just like this, we made every game personal.
Well, just as Cincinnati's T.J. Houshmandzadeh Schmenzada.
5 weeks later, the Steelers faced the Bengals in the playoffs.
I'll never forget the night before Coach Cowher showed that footage. We were so enraged. So that next day, it was like we were launched out of a cannon. Wow!
The whole team, we about to play them again. It's like, don't forget what was out of it.
Well, think before you treat it like a dirty dish rag. 'Cause here in Steeler Nation, that towel's our flag.
After that, the Bengals didn't win another playoff game for 16 years.
Just ask TJ Hushmanzada if he'll ever clean his cleats again with a terrible towel. When you get that disrespect, whatever mojo, whatever hoodoo voodoo you want to say it is, it's alive and well. And the Tennessee Titans were a prime example of that.
3 years later, the number 1 seeded Titans stomped on a terrible towel and then lost 8 straight games, including one in Pittsburgh.
Where they used it like a hanky, stomped it in a dirt mound. Now the number 1 seed's been planted in the ground.
Last December, a couple of my knuckleheads stomped on it, and we haven't won a game since.
I don't normally believe in curses, but I think there's a little something to it. I think there is, yeah.
Stomping on a terrible towel is unacceptable, and you will be punished.
'Cause here in Steeler Nation, that towel's our flag.
Over the years, Myron quietly donated part of the proceeds from the terrible towel to the Marquis Allegheny Valley School, a nonprofit that provides care for individuals with special needs. Myron's only son, Danny, was born in 1968 with severe intellectual and developmental disabilities.
You know, my brother's nonverbal, and so you can't really, we don't know how much he understands. So it was hard for my parents.
Myron and his wife, Mildred, cared for Danny at home and tried various facilities to house him part-time, eventually settling on the Allegheny Valley School in the early 1980s. Danny Cope, now 57, has been part of their program for over 40 years.
Not everyone knows how to pick up on the cues of a nonverbal individual. Danny is highly intelligent. He really is. Does he speak all the time? No, but he is very self-aware of his surroundings.
Danny's sister, Elizabeth, takes him to dinner or a movie almost every week. Family members aren't required to pay for enrollment. Housing and activities are completely funded by grants and donations.
Some of these individuals, if they didn't have places like ours, I really feel they would be in a really, really tough situation.
By the mid-1990s, Myron had donated more than $100,000 of the Terrible Towel's profits to the school.
Even from the very beginning, he always gave some of it to charity, and he never advertised that, ever. And then like somewhere in the 80s, it became half. And then it became like a little more. In 1996, he decided to donate all of it.
In August of that year, Myron turned over all future Terrible Towel manufacturing and merchandising rights to the Steelers, while retaining his 20%. Then he walked into the offices of the Allegheny Valley School and donated all of his future proceeds from the sale of the Terrible Towels to the school.
I guess he was just very grateful for the care they provided Danny, and he was always worried. And I think he worried that my brother's school, like what would happen if they no longer had funds.
I don't even know how to begin to frame how thankful and grateful we are that we can continue our mission because of donations like we get from the Terrible Towel. We actually to date have received about $10 million in proceeds from the Terrible Towels. It's an incredible legacy for the Pittsburgh region, and we're really proud to be a part of it.
Over the last 30 years, thousands of disabled individuals have benefited from Myron's generosity. That single gesture guaranteed that the terrible towel would never be about merchandising or commercialism. It will always be about community.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Community. It brings lots of different organizations together that normally wouldn't have any contact with each other. Their common tie is the towel.
Myron retired in 2004 after 35 years in the booth. The following October, the Steelers celebrated Myron Cope night at halftime of a Monday night football game.
In person, he may not stand tall, but in the Berg, nobody stands taller than Myron Cope.
Oh, that meant a lot. That was such a special night. He loved Pittsburgh, and I think everyone in Pittsburgh loved him.
He embraced not only the community, but people embraced him for who he was and what he stood for and the enthusiasm that he brought to their lives.
Myron, you put the color in color commentator. You brought the fun to Steelers football, and through the terrible towel, you brought Steeler fans closer to Steelers football. We want to say thank you for 35 years.
I'm sure he would have liked to keep going, but he had to retire. His health wasn't well. I think about that night a lot.
Muzzle toff, dear Myron, muzzle toff.
To an organization that never once told me what to say, what I could not to say, to these players and the coaches and to the fans, thank you very much.
Myron Cope passed away on February 27, 2008. There were numerous tributes, including a silent, terrible towel twirl on the snowy steps of Pittsburgh City Hall.
The terrible towel and seeing that waved around the stadium still makes me think of him and the importance it has in the community. I don't think there's a stronger relationship in the NFL between a community and the team.
The terrible towel is ultimately about bringing people together, the fabric of Pittsburgh, passed down through generations.
Listen, it's part of the identity. It's what we have and who we are.
When you think about the terrible towel, you understand what it represents. You understand who it supports. And you come to the realization, it's one word. It's Pittsburgh. And so it means community. It means family. It means team. It means organization. It means championships. It means Pittsburgh.
As long as the Steelers play football, the terrible towel will remain. For 50 years, it has tied our community together by a common golden thread. What started as a gimmick a half-century ago was embraced by myself, my teammates, and all of Steelers Nation. And there's no tradition like waving the terrible towel.